Welcome into the Commanders Report. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Today we have a loaded show for you guys as players report to Commanders training camp today. But there's a certain player that did not report. That is, of course, superstar wide receiver Terry McLaurin. We'll break down the latest surrounding McLaurin at the top of today's show. Then Coach Q and GM Adam Peters had a pre-camp presser today. I'll let you guys know what they had to say. Then also we'll get into the Dallas Cowboys. Now they're shooting themselves in the foot when it comes to their negotiations with superstar pass rusher Micah Parsons right now. And then we'll finish up today's show with the possibility of Trey Hendrickson still being able to be traded before the start of the 2025 NFL season. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already for extensive Commanders training camp coverage. Of course, practices start this week. We'll have practice reports for you guys. We'll let you guys know which players are performing well, which ones maybe aren't meeting expectations, and we'll let you guys know the very latest from Ashburn, Virginia, all throughout Commanders training camp this week. All right, so let's get into Terry McLaurin. It was just reported moments ago that Terry McLaurin did not report to Commanders training camp today. The Commanders brass did expect him to be there today, but he unfortunately did not show up. Of course, he's looking for a brand new contract extension that has not come yet. But today at Coach Q and Adam Peters' pre-camp press conference, they did talk about the Terry McLaurin situation and how they feel like they have made progress towards a deal with their superstar wide receiver in recent days. This is what Adam Peters, the GM, had to say about the latest surrounding the McLaurin negotiations. We've had conversations recently, and we're looking to have more conversations, and we're going to do everything we can to get a deal done. Obviously, you'd like to get these things done quicker than longer, but it's not always going to happen that way. We're dealing with a really good player and a really good person. Our goal is to get a long-term deal done. Understanding where they're at and understanding where we're at and trying to close that gap and come to something is really all the nuance of it. Everybody in this building values Terry very much. We knew that coming in, and we knew that even more after spending a year with them. We're dealing with a really good player and a really good person. We'll do whatever we can to get a deal done. So, obviously that is something that is ongoing here in Washington, where these are ongoing negotiations where Adam Peters and Dan Quinn and Terry McLaurin are trying to come to a middle ground. Now, the reporting out there from people like Adam Schefter is that the Commanders want to pay him like $25 million per year, which honestly is not that much of a pay raise from his previous contract. And I really don't think, unless the Commanders are willing to move up to $30+ million per season, that Terry is going to accept that number. So I do think the Commanders will eventually fold here. Hopefully they do it sooner rather than later so that McLaurin can get on the practice field as soon as possible. But that wasn't the only thing that they talked about at the pre-camp presser today. They also talked about newly acquired edge rusher Von Miller. Adam Peters said, according to Zach Selby of Commanders.com here, not only is he one of the best pass rushers in league history, but he's also equally incredible in the locker room. So obviously they still feel like he can play. They still feel like that he fills their role as their designated pass rusher, kind of replacing Dante Fowler Jr.'s role in this Commanders defense, but also that he's going to bring a nice veteran presence to a team that already had a lot of great veteran players on this roster, but just yet another player that wants to try and go out and win a championship with this football team, another veteran leader that's going to be able to step in like Bobby Wagner did last year and be another leader on this Commanders defense that is trying to move up the ranks in the defensive power rankings in the National Football League after last year, where they put up some decent production last year. They had their moments on defense, but they certainly weren't a fantastic unit on that side of the ball last year. They're hoping Von Miller fills that role that Dante Fowler Jr. filled so nicely for this team just last season. Coach Q also said some things, and he talked about two second-year players that he is very excited about, and he talked about Brandon Coleman and how well he has taken the shift to left guard heading into the year, and it almost seems like a certainty at this point that Coleman will be playing left guard for this team week one. He's not going to be sticking at tackle. And then Javonte Jean-Baptiste, the 7th-round pick last year, a lot of people kind of aren't even putting JJB on their final roster projections heading into camp, but Coach Quinn did take the time to, compliment his offseason to this point and say that he's very excited to see how he plays heading into this year's training camp. Now, obviously, like every other Adam Peters draft pick, he had a really great relative athletic score coming into the league last year. He's a very physically talented player. You can take a look at his relative athletic score from last year. He's very fast for a defensive end. Now, he's a little bit undersized, especially for somebody that would be playing defensive end for the Washington Commanders, but he's got a really great athletic profile. In terms of where he kind of fits in with this group, it's going to be an uphill battle for him, I think, because you do have a bunch of veterans in front of him. Jacob Martin, Dietrich Wise, Cleveland Ferrell, not to mention Dorrance Armstrong and Von Miller as well. So he's got his work cut out for him here if he's going to make the final roster, but having the head coach, say his name specifically as a name that he's excited to see during camp, it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Then another thing that was announced today is that the Washington Commanders actually made an investment in a new locker room at their facility in Ashburn, Virginia. Also, they made an investment to improvements to their new bubble, their indoor bubble that they have there at the facility as well. So it's just really nice and a nice fresh breath of fresh air here that this ownership group led by Josh Harris, of course, is investing in this team, and they are putting resources and significant financial resources to make the lives better of the players that play here. And it's definitely clear that Josh Harris and this ownership group care about this team quite a bit. So still to come here on the Commanders Report, the Cowboys are already annoying. We'll break down what they're doing, what Jared Jones is talking about with Micah Parsons. And then we'll talk about Trey Hendrickson, who is not at Bengals training camp. And according to some recent reports here, things could get ugly really, really fast, and it could end up in a trade of last year's sack leader in the National Football League. But before we get into the rest of today's show, I want to give you guys a word from our sponsor here at Fanatics, where if you guys are looking for a brand new Washington Commanders hoodie today, you can get one 50% off when you go to chatsports.com/WAS hoodie. I really like the design of this one, guys. You've got that burgundy color, you got the patches on the sleeve, and then of course you got the logo on the chest. Really like that burgundy color as well, guys. So if you want a 50% off today, you can use our link, chatsports.com/WAS hoodie. That is down there in the comments and description of today's show. It also helps out our channel because every single purchase made, when somebody clicks that link, we get part of the proceeds from Fanatics from that purchase. So if you guys want to go chatsports.com/WAS hoodie, get a brand new Commanders hoodie, 50% off today. You guys can use our link down there in the comments and description. So once again, what can go wrong will go wrong for the Dallas Cowboys, where Jared Jones put Micah Parsons, a superstar edge rusher who did report to camp but is still in ongoing contract talks with the team. He put him on blast during his training camp presser yesterday from Oxnard, California. This is what Jared Jones had to say about his superstar edge. Just because we sign him doesn't mean we're going to have him. He was hurt 6 games last year. By the way, he missed 4 games last year, so Jerry's already off his rocker, all right? Seriously, I remember signing a player to the highest paid at the position in the league, and he was knocked out for 2/3 of the year. Dak Prescott talking about his quarterback as well, taking pot shots at his quarterback as well. Very good, Jerry. Says, so there's a lot of things you can think about, just as the player does when you're thinking about committing and guaranteeing money. The other thing I would say is that contracts are 4 or 5 years, okay? There's a lot of water under the bridge if you step out there and you do something in the first 2 or 3. You can get hit by a car. Seriously. Have you ever heard of any clubs committing to players and then it not panning out? We have. So it definitely seems like Jerry Jones has the hate flowing through him, like the true Sith Lord that he is. By the way, Jerry's looking more and more like Emperor Palpatine from Star Wars. But yes, absolutely, Jerry. Publicly chastise your star edge rusher and your star quarterback in the public. Absolutely. Air all that dirty laundry out there. I want this to be as chaotic of a season as possible for the Dallas Cowboys, because obviously that's good news for us Commanders fans out there. Also, J.J. Watt, a former superstar defensive lineman for the Houston Texans and Arizona Cardinals, put this out in response to Jerry Jones's comments to Micah yesterday. Anytime you can publicly take a dig at your star quarterback and your star pass rusher simultaneously right before the season begins, you just got to take it. Nothing makes guys want to fight for you more than hearing how upset you are that they got hurt while fighting for you, which is a very, very good point. By the way, Micah Parsons himself retweeted that post from J.J. Watt. So listen, guys, as long as Jerry Jones is in charge of the Dallas Cowboys, I am not afraid afraid of those Cowgirls whatsoever, especially while the Commanders have Jaden Daniels. The team I'm definitely most afraid of in this division is the Philadelphia Eagles, for good reason. The Dallas Cowboys, no matter how good that roster is, I think we know what can go wrong will go wrong, especially with that guy as the team's owner. Then our final topic today, talking about Trey Hendrickson, another player that is not showing up to his respective training camp. In fact, he is in Florida right now after recent talks to get an extension done with the Bengals before camp fell through in recent hours. Jordan Schultz had 3 separate reports today. Let's break them all down here. Schultz says sources, the Bengals and All-Pro defensive end Trey Hendrickson made attempts over the past few days to re-engage on a new deal, but talks failed to gain serious momentum. Both sides are dug in and frustrated. I'm told these are key differences between the two sides, and there's currently no clear path to a resolution. Later that morning, Jordan Schultz says this: I'm told the key issue in the Bengals Trey Hendrickson negotiations has been the length of the commitment and the guarantees tied to a potential new deal. Both sides remain stuck. The Bengals want to stick to their structure. Hendrickson wants something that reflects his value. So far, no common ground has been found, and as a result, Hendrickson is holding out of training camp. And then just moments ago, Schultz gave us another update this afternoon saying multiple sources described the last round of talks between Trey Hendrickson and the Bengals as quote-unquote very contentious, and that it's been quote-unquote very difficult negotiation all offseason long. Hendrickson has publicly said he won't play this season without a new deal, and the team is aware. Talks hit a major impasse on Monday, and I'm told it's quote-unquote unknown when they'll resume. So earlier today, Trey Hendrickson did post this photo from Florida, where, of course, the Bengals report to training camp today in Cincinnati. So Trey is not present with the team right now after apparently this last round of negotiations did not go very well, and it's currently unknown if talks are going to continue between the two sides. It definitely seems like a contentious situation. But for what it's worth, the People's Insider, Ricky, still says a deal is going to happen. Now, my opinion here is that Ricky's source is coming from the Bengals because all of Ricky's sourcing this offseason has been very optimistic that a deal will get done, which kind of points to me that, it's coming from the Bengals. But this was Ricky's latest updates here. Yesterday, he said, Trey Day update. Sounds like the Bengals and Trey Hendrickson are working hard to get a new deal done, possibly as soon as today. So this was yesterday. Both sides are pushing to finalize an extension this afternoon, almost there. And then today, when the Schultz report came out, Ricky had this update. It looked like we were heading toward an agreement yesterday, and talks stalled. Hits a speed bump. Hey, sorry, Bengals fans. Still feel good. It gets done. So Ricky is still, sticking to his guns here, saying that a deal is going to get done between these two sides. But I can tell you guys this right now. Cincinnati and their defense cannot afford to lose Trey Hendrickson. And I think the best way I can describe that to you is this tweet from Warren Sharp that he put out back in May, saying, reading about how Trey Hendrickson is, quote-unquote, extremely dug in, he should be. With him not playing off the field, Cincinnati's pass defense the last 2 years, number 32 in pressure percentage, number 32 in completion percentage, number 32 in success rate, and number 32 in passer rating. By the way, there are 32 teams in the National Football League, so they desperately need Trey Hendrickson out on the field. And even with Hendrickson on the field, this defense stinks, guys. You guys can see their defensive ranks last year. Pretty much nothing ranking within the top 10 outside of yards per play allowed, but it's definitely not a good situation right now for the Cincinnati Bengals, and I don't think their defense will be good even with Trey Hendrickson on the field. But you take away their most impactful player and a guy that has had 17 and a half sacks the last 2 years, yeah, this defense is going to get even worse. And I'm sorry, Joe Burrow, that you're going to have to score 40 points a game to be able to win football games this year. But despite that, guys, I can't completely rule out a trade, right? Because it definitely sounds like Hendrickson is dug in and the Bengals are not willing to budge either. So if that's the case, and if these last round of negotiations really went as poorly as Jordan Schultz makes it seem, I do think a trade is possible between these two sides. But even if Trey Hendrickson is made available, I wouldn't completely count out the Commanders, but I wouldn't say they're the favorites. I would put other teams out there like maybe the Green Bay Packers or the Detroit Lions ahead of the Commanders right now because they just added to their edge rusher room in Von Miller, who they probably gave certain promises to when it comes to playing time. They also have other guys like Dorrance Armstrong, Cleveland Ferrell, Dietrich Wise. They're going to be using Javon Kinlaw on the edge, if you believe defensive coordinator Joe Witt Jr. this year. So I'm just not not too sure how much room they have left in this edge rusher room to add a Trey Hendrickson, even if he's made available. But if they wanted to go get him, this is a deal that I think could potentially work. You swap draft picks. You send your first-round draft pick next year to the Bengals in exchange for their second-round draft pick. You give a 2027 fourth-round pick along with that, and then you also give them Dorrance Armstrong so they replace a starter in their defense with another starting caliber player. And then you're not adding another player necessarily to your edge rusher room. You still have the same amount of edges in your edge rusher room if you are the Washington Commanders. So would you accept this trade? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Type A if you would accept it, or type D if you would decline it. Personally, guys, I would still accept it because you got to get great players in here if you want to win championships. Hendrickson gives this defense a real chance to be a top 10 unit in 2025 if they can pull this off. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. A for accept or D for decline. And that'll be it for today's edition of Commanders News and Rumors. Today was a loaded show. I guarantee you guys, with this McLaurin situation dragging out even further, we're going to have more updates for you guys as the week goes on. So click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Until next time, guys, go raise some hail.